James Arnett's journey from a small-town athlete to Hollywood legend is one of resilience and transformation. Severely injured in World War II, he overcame physical and emotional scars to become an iconic figure in American television. But his path to fame was anything but easy. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. James Arness, the towering actor best known for his role as Marshal Matt Dillon in the long-running television series Gunsmoke, was born on May 26, 1923, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His journey to becoming a television icon, however, began far from the fame and spotlight of Hollywood. Arness' early years were marked by simplicity and struggle, characteristics that would shape his personality and career for years to come. Born James King, Arness to parents Rolf and Ruth, Arness grew up in a modest household. His father was a businessman, and his mother, a homemaker, who instilled in him the values of hard work and perseverance. Growing up with his brother Peter, who would later adopt the stage name Peter Graves and become an actor in his own right, James was no stranger to the world of entertainment. However, in his early life, he was far more interested in sports than acting. A talented athlete, James excelled in high school basketball, and it seemed that his future might have been more focused on sports than show business. However, fate had other plans. The seeds of his future acting career were planted during his time at the University of Minnesota, where he attended on a basketball scholarship. But just as he seemed poised to continue his studies and athletic career, World War II swept through the globe, and Arness enlisted in the army. His life would take a drastic turn as he became part of the infantry, experiencing firsthand the brutalities of war. It was during his time in the military that Arness faced one of the most defining moments of his life. He was severely injured during combat. Arness was wounded by machine gun fire during the invasion of Anzio, leaving him with a permanent leg injury that would affect his life forever. After the war, he returned home to Minneapolis, physically scarred but determined to rebuild his life. His love for sports faded, and it was in these difficult moments of recovery that his interest in acting began to take root. As he healed from his injuries, Arness ventured into the world of acting, first studying at a local drama school and then moving to Hollywood in the late 1940s, where his name would soon become known by millions. But the road to fame was not easy, and his early years in the city of dreams were filled with obstacles and rejection. His early life, marked by hardship, loss, and a will to persevere, would be the foundation for the man who would go on to define the iconic role of Marshal Matt Dillon. But how did he transition from these early struggles to Hollywood stardom? The next part of James Arness' life is filled with struggle and unexpected beginnings. After returning from the war, James Arness faced the challenge of rebuilding his life. His physical injuries, though they did not stop him from walking, left a permanent mark. With limited career options and a world full of new possibilities, he turned to the one thing that captured his interest during his recovery: acting. Initially, Hollywood was not kind to Arness. He had the tall, rugged look, which made him stand out. But his size often worked against him in the early days. Casting agents were not sure how to place such a towering figure. His first roles were minor and often uncredited, appearing in films like The Farmer Daughter, 1947, and Battleground, 1949. But they did not immediately establish him as a star. The reality of being an aspiring actor in Hollywood was harsh. James struggled to get noticed, and the rejection piled up. But he refused to give up. Despite his early setbacks, Arness' breakthrough came when he was cast in the 1951 sci-fi film The Thing from Another World. Although the film itself became a cult classic, Arness' role as the mysterious creature from space did not instantly turn him into a household name. It was a small step in a long journey, but it showed that he had the stamina to continue. In the years that followed, Arness would find himself in more films, but his career really took a turn when he landed the role of Marshal Matt Dillon in the television series Gunsmoke. The series premiered in 1955, and this was the role that would define his legacy. But before Arness could rise to fame, he still had to prove his worth. The next chapter of his life is where his resilience truly shone through. By 1955, James Arness' career was at a crossroads. Despite a series of supporting roles in both film and television, he had yet to find the breakthrough role that would elevate him to stardom. But everything changed when he was cast as Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke, a Western television series that would become an iconic piece of American television history. The role of Matt Dillon was not easy to step into. The character was a stoic, tough, and morally upright lawman in the fictional town of Dodge City, Kansas. For many actors, playing a sheriff or lawman was a traditional role, but Arness brought something unique to the character. His towering presence, combined with his ability to portray a quiet but powerful authority, resonated deeply with audiences. Arness' portrayal of Dillon was grounded in a sense of justice and calm leadership that became the cornerstone of the series. Gunsmoke quickly became a hit. The show's gripping storylines, intense drama, and rich character development helped it to rise above other westerns at the time. But what made Gunsmoke different, and what made Arness' role so memorable, was its consistency. Arness played Matt Dillon for an astonishing 20 years, making Gunsmoke the longest-running primetime television series in American history at the time. Over the years, his portrayal became a part of American culture, with fans across the country eagerly tuning in to watch his every move. But even as his fame soared, Arness' life was not without challenges. Behind the scenes, there were obstacles, both personal and professional, that Arness had to navigate. The pressures of being on a hit show for 2 decades took its toll, and in his personal life, struggles would continue to unfold. What happened behind the scenes as Arness achieved stardom? While James Arness' career flourished, his personal life was often overshadowed by the pressures of fame. For many years, Arness remained somewhat private, rarely sharing intimate details about his personal experiences. But behind the scenes, he faced challenges in his home life that few knew about. In the early days of Gunsmoke, Arness had married his first wife, Virginia Chapman, in 1948. The couple had 2 children together, a son named Rolf and a daughter named Jenny. However, their marriage faced difficulties as Arness' career began to consume much of his time. The demands of his role as Matt Dillon meant long hours on set, leaving little time for family life. The couple separated in 1960, and their divorce was finalized in 1963. Despite his personal struggles, Arness remained a devoted father to his children. His love for them was evident, but the challenges of balancing family and a career in Hollywood were not easy. After his divorce, Arness found himself living alone in a large, somewhat lonely house, a far cry from the bustling life he had known before fame. The house, located in the California hills, was isolated and set far back from the city. It was the kind of home that seemed like it would be a peaceful retreat from the chaos of Hollywood. Yet, it also became a symbol of his emotional isolation. The house, with its quiet, expansive views of the surrounding landscape, reflected the kind of solitude that Arness often felt. Although he continued to work and find success in his career, his personal life seemed to be in constant flux. In the years that followed, Arness would go on to marry a second time, but his relationship with his children and the pain of his past marriages remained a deeply felt part of his life. Arness' family life was complicated, and the house where he spent many years became a symbol of his struggles and his desire for peace. But just as his personal life was evolving, his career was about to face new challenges. After his divorce from Virginia Chapman, James Arness' life entered a new chapter, one that involved both personal and romantic growth. Though he had been married once before, Arness' second marriage would be a significant turning point in his life. In 1978, he married his second wife, Janet Surtees, a woman who was far removed from the Hollywood spotlight. Janet was a woman of grace and warmth, and their relationship was grounded in simplicity. Unlike his first marriage, which was marked by the pressures of fame and long working hours, Arness's marriage to Janet seemed to offer him a sense of stability and peace. The couple found comfort in each other, away from the limelight, and together they created a life that was more private and less consumed by the chaos of Hollywood. Their marriage was marked by quiet affection, and they built a family life that felt more grounded than Arness' first marriage. Although the couple never had children together, Janet was a loving stepmother to Arness, 2 children from his first marriage. The pair seemed to complement each other well, finding happiness in their shared time together, away from the public eye. For Arness, this second marriage offered the kind of emotional fulfillment that had eluded him in his first. However, despite their deep connection, their marriage was not without its struggles. Arness, by nature, was a man who valued his privacy, and he found it difficult to open up about personal matters. As much as he enjoyed his life with Janet, there was always a lingering sense of the emotional scars left by his previous experiences. His career continued to demand his attention, and the pressures of being a public figure remained a constant challenge. James Arness relationships, both both personal and romantic, reflected the complexity of his life. But even in the midst of personal challenges, he remained a figure that fans admired for his strength and resilience. What came next for Arness as he continued to navigate both the highs and lows of his life? By the time James Arness' career came to a close, he had established himself as one of the most respected and beloved actors in American television history. His portrayal of Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke not only made him a household name, but it also allowed him to accumulate a significant fortune. By the end of the series, which ran for 20 years, Arness had earned a substantial salary, and his earnings over the years solidified his place as one of the highest-paid actors in television during his time. At the height of his career, James Arness' net worth was estimated to be around $8 million. While this might not seem as high as some modern-day celebrities, it was a considerable amount for someone in his era, especially when taking into account the longevity of his work. His wealth came from a combination of his television work, film roles, and various endorsements throughout his career. In addition to his salary from Gunsmoke, Arness also made money from reruns of the show, which continued to generate income long after its original run. But beyond his financial success, Arness' true legacy was in his contribution to the world of entertainment. Gunsmoke may have been his crowning achievement, but his impact extended far beyond just that role. Arness became a symbol of the American West, embodying the principles of courage, justice, and honor. His portrayal of Matt Dillon set the standard for future portrayals of lawmen in television and film, and his influence on the Western genre remains undeniable. In his later years, Arness remained a beloved figure. Despite stepping away from acting, he remained active in interviews and public appearances, where he continued to inspire fans and fellow actors alike. His character, Matt Dillon, continues to be referenced and admired by new generations, ensuring that Arness's legacy lives on. As his life came to a close, James Arness left behind a significant legacy not only in terms of his wealth, but in the indelible mark he left on television history. But even the most legendary careers face their setbacks and challenges, and Arness was no exception. While James Arness enjoyed incredible success throughout his career, his journey was not without its setbacks and controversy. Like many stars of his era, Arness faced challenges that tested his resilience, both professionally and personally. One of the first major challenges Arness faced was his struggle with typecasting. After playing the role of Marshal Matt Dillon for over 2 decades, it was difficult for the public to see him as anything else. For many actors, being so closely associated with one iconic role can limit the opportunities they receive for diverse parts. Arness found it tough to break free from the persona of Dillon, which made it harder for him to pursue roles outside of the Western genre. Despite his impressive career in Hollywood, many directors and producers did not see past the character he had embodied so convincingly for so long. Another setback Arness faced was the toll his career took on his personal life. The long hours spent on the Gunsmoke set, combined with the pressures of being a high-profile actor, had a strain on his relationships. His first marriage ended in divorce, and the personal cost of his fame was apparent. Arness, a private man by nature, struggled with the demands of public attention and the intrusion into his personal life, often leading to feelings of isolation and frustration. His struggles with balancing his family life and his career are reflective of the challenges many Hollywood stars faced during that time. Additionally, Arness's involvement in some of the more controversial aspects of Hollywood's golden age, especially in relation to the way Westerns were produced and perceived in a rapidly changing social landscape, made him the subject of occasional scrutiny. His role in Gunsmoke, a show that was criticized in some circles for its portrayal of violence and its depiction of the Old West, put him in the crosshairs of critics who felt that Westerns glorified outdated ideals. While Arness never became directly involved in public controversy or scandals, the nature of his role in Gunsmoke sometimes brought negative attention. However, in true Arness fashion, he weathered these storms and continued to build a career and legacy that transcended the challenges he faced. As he approached the latter years of his career, his unwavering commitment to his craft and his ability to adapt became more apparent. But what about his final years? How did he continue to influence the entertainment world? And what legacy did he leave behind in his final days? As the years went on, James Arness' career was far from over. While Gunsmoke had defined much of his life, Arness was determined not to be just a relic of the past. Even after the series concluded in 1975, he made a conscious effort to evolve with the changing landscape of entertainment, proving that his career was not simply defined by one role or one series. Arness made notable comebacks in his later years, particularly through film roles and appearances in various television movies. One of his most memorable returns to the screen was in the 1980s, when he starred in the television film Gunsmoke Returned to Dodge, 1987. Although he had left Gunsmoke behind years earlier, this film allowed Arness to reprise his iconic role as Matt Dillon, much to the delight of fans who had followed the series for decades. The return of Arness to the screen in the role that had made him famous reminded audiences of the impact he had made on television history. Aside from Gunsmoke, Arness appeared in other roles, including a part in the popular TV miniseries How the West Was Won, 1977. While these roles were not as high profile as his work on Gunsmoke, they showcased his range as an actor and proved that, even in his later years, he still had much to offer. His performances were characterized by a quiet strength and a sense of experience that had only deepened over time. Despite the successes of his career, Arness's personal life continued to be grounded in his love for his family and his desire for privacy.